In the ancient world, supreme authority was always measured by the sword, the crown, and the voices of priests. Ordinary people merely followed the flow of life, as if existence itself was nothing more than an extension of the god's will. Yet in a small city called Miletus, there was born a simple man, without title, without an army, without a palace. His name was Thales. He was known in the marketplace as an olive oil merchant. Jars lined up, coins gleaming as they changed hands, the sounds of bargaining mixing with the aroma of baked bread. But behind this bustle lay a peculiar habit. He often planted a stick in the ground, observed its shadow moving, and scribbled numbers on a worn papyrus. People laughed at him. "What good are shadows to a hungry stomach?" they sneered. But Thales did not waver. He believed that within these simple movements lay the laws of the universe, laws powerful enough to defeat superstition. Word of the stranger who measured shadows reached Egypt, a land that saw itself as the center of the world. The priests, guardians of the secrets of pyramids and calendars, felt their pride threatened. How could a merchant from a small city dare to meddle with the mysteries of sun and stars? Yet Thales pressed on. He crossed the Aegean Sea, journeyed up the Nile, and stood before the giant pyramids. With the same stick, he measured the length of their shadows. The Egyptian workers and officials were astonished. For thousands of years, the pyramids had stood, yet no one had calculated their height with such a simple method. Thales only smiled. Shadows always tell the truth if you know how to listen. With one elegant method, he shook the authority that had been built in the name of gods. But Thales' journey did not end at the pyramids. On desert nights, he sat beneath a sky thick with stars. To him, constellations were not just mythic tales of gods, but signs that could be read. He recorded when certain stars rose over the horizon, when they vanished behind the desert. From this, he began drafting calendars, when planting seasons arrived, when the river would flood, even when eclipses would occur. His words to his young students shocked many. Eclipses can be calculated, not divined. It was a rebellion against ancient tradition, for prophecy had always been considered divine revelation. And yet here was a foreigner without a title, daring to challenge heaven's monopoly. When Thales returned to Ionia, tales of his brilliance reached the ears of kings. He was no longer merely a merchant or stargazer. He was becoming an intellectual threat. Even the mighty king of Lydia heard of him. To kings, power rested on swords and fear. To Thales, truth lay in logic. One day, in a crowded court filled with priests and advisors, Thales declared, "Water is the origin of all things." A simple statement, yet it struck like lightning. The priest fumed. How could the world not be born of gods, but of natural principles? The king sat in silence, torn between admiration and suspicion. Thales' words cracked the chains of myth as though challenging the throne itself. Yet Thales was no mere theorist. He cared for the fate of his people. Miletus, as a port city, was often trapped between trade and war. One day, two great armies, those of the Medes and the Lydians, clashed. The battlefield ran red with blood, but suddenly the sky darkened in a solar eclipse. Both armies panicked. Swords fell from their hands. Historical records tell us Thales had predicted the event beforehand. What the people saw as a curse, Thales had shown to be the language of nature. On that day, the war stopped. A man without weapons halted two great armies with nothing but knowledge. Not only the sky, but the sea too became Thales' domain of exploration. The Ionians were brave sailors, yet often lost, relying only on wind and waves. Thales introduced a radical tool, the stars as navigators. He taught sailors to read constellations, especially the Big Dipper and the North Star. Seas once haunted by gods and spirits now became pathways, charted by logic. Ionian ships sailed farther, reaching new markets. Thales' knowledge not only challenged kings and priests, but also expanded trade and strengthened the economic power of his people. Despite his genius, Thales lived humbly. People often mocked philosophy as useless, until one year, he bought up all the olive presses cheaply before the harvest, having calculated that it would be abundant. When the harvest came, he became the wealthiest man in town. His message was clear. Philosophy was not mere theory. It could outsmart merchants and create power as real as gold or swords. The story spread, making both rulers and commoners realize that knowledge could generate a new kind of power. Students followed in his footsteps, Anaximander, Anaximenes, and others. Together they formed the Milesian school, the seat of Greek philosophy. From there blossomed great ideas about the cosmos, atoms, harmony, even democracy. It all began with a man who dared to plant a stick in the ground and question its shadow. his students spread across cities, carrying the fire of knowledge that would slowly ignite the world. No longer merely challenging priests or kings, they challenged every ancient tradition that confined human reason. Thales' legacy did not end with his generation. Centuries later, his ideas about logic, geometry, and astronomy became the foundation of modern science. From Euclid's mathematics to Galileo's telescope, from Newton's laws to Einstein's theories, all can be traced back to the seeds planted by a humble merchant. A world once filled with superstition was slowly replaced by laws that could be understood. History proves that great civilizations are not built by swords alone, but also by pens and numbers. And now, when we use GPS, measure time with atomic clocks, or forecast weather with satellites, the imprint of Thales remains. From the shadow of a tree to the power of empires, from a simple stick to space technology, his legacy shows that logic can conquer the world. Thales proved that knowledge is sharper than the sword, stronger than the crown. He was but an ordinary man, yet with the courage to think, he transformed the face of civilization,